All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at Unified MMA 45, and that goes down on May the 27th. We've got a Unified MMA Featherweight Championship defense going on when Hammo puts the gold up against Neal Anderson in what should be a very high-octane rematch that I'm very excited to get talking about, and very excited to have Majed on the show again. How are you doing there, man?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. I was just kind of wondering about the thoughts on this fight here, and just, I mean, the card in general, really. I mean, this seems like quite the event, multiple title fights, UFC fight pass. Like, what's the excitement level for this one? I imagine it's pretty high.
Oh man, it's crazy. Just because you've seen a lot of good shows lately on there. Unified 44, there was some, big fights on there, and then this one, like Ryan Ford and all those big names are coming on, and going on the same fight cards with these guys is going to be something, exciting. It's thrilling. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, and that was such an exciting fight the first time you guys ran it there. Like, was that a fight that you always figured there would eventually be some sort of rematch coming out there with Neal Anderson, just like how competitive and exciting the fight was?
Oh, of course. And then just the way it went, too, it was a close fight. If I didn't go for the finish, I'm sure he would have taken the fight last time. But this time I'm coming prepared, and I'm ready for whatever comes.
Yeah, it felt like your tenacity and your pacing really served you well there, like getting that fourth round submission there. And like you were saying, it seemed like on a scorecard level, he was maybe, racking it in. I mean, obviously you had your moments in the context of those rounds, but with it being the round by round kind of scoring. So just like all those factors considered, like what do you take away from a performance like that? I imagine that galvanizes what you're doing in a few regards.
Well, last time it was my first time coming off of knee surgery and stuff like that, and I just, it was almost like 3 or 4 years almost before I fought before that. So it was, I think, a little bit of ring rust too. So I had to kind of get over that, and now that I feel it back again and I feel good, I think it should be a lot different outcome and different. It'll be a lot faster fight this time. I can see.
Yeah, it's sort of a curious spot in a particular regard because you're defending a title, but the last fight there, the Alex Morgan sort of fight there with Samurai MMA 1 vying for some other featherweight kind of gold there. So like, I guess how are you like looking at this fight, or does that not even interface with like how you look at fighting, where it's like if you're coming off of a loss or a win in the last outing, like does that inform what you're doing in the subsequent outing, or is the fact that I'm thinking maybe it's a curious spot maybe not as much of a thing?
Well, no, I seen quite a bit of holes in my game when I fought Alex Morgan, and I kind of closed those holes, and I kind of learned from it. You know what I mean? And going forward with this, my stand-up is going to be a whole different game than it was last time. My hands won't be down the way it was before.
Something I thought was cool, though, like, I mean, this came kind of relatively shortly after the first Neal Anderson fight there. I saw the pic you posted where you got to show off the championship belt to the kids. What was that moment like? That looked really sweet.
Oh, it was amazing. Just, all the kids looking up to you like that. There's nothing like it, seriously. It's more thrilling in that situation than it would be just for everything else. I like being a role model to younger generations,
Yeah, that very much comes through and stuff like that. Like just different, like even the last time we talked, just like certain instances of like reaching out to different like local kids and just articulating your life story and stuff like that, like, even beyond the martial arts participation. So cool you're doing that in a few different ways, but also just reminded me of kind of like the, I guess, familial sort of vibes that I always get with like people at CMC, like whether you're like a young kid training there or an active pro fighter, it just seems like a real strong unit.
It's an amazing place. It's like a family. Everybody there is there to help each other, and every gym has their own thing, you know what I mean? Like, every gym has like a family kind of bond going on, and I feel like CMC is one of those places where I call home, and everybody there will take their time to help you if you need help, or if anything, everybody's just there for you as like a family, and that's the way it should be, I think.
Yeah, like I was talking to Colton Boxall the other day, and he like specifically mentioned the fact that you were on the card and just like that level of excitement. Just as much as there's that individual competitive dynamic, just like having someone on your team readying to fight on the same card and everything like that.
It gives you that boost. It gives you the energy you need because you both want to perform well and you kind of push each other, you know? So it's really good.
And I feel like that's probably a benefit of working at CMC, like just in terms of how active everybody is. I would wager that's been sort of a dynamic you've had for a lot of your fights, where it's like there's going to be someone else on the card who's like a CMC compatriot too.
That's true. That's true. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, you're right. Every time we go on a card, there's usually more guys that come along when they fight, and it does, yeah, it kind of puts a fire under you, you know?
It's kind of funny. Like I was talking to Jet Grand a bit before, who's actually getting ready to fight Colton there, and I was like, "Oh, it seems like you fought a few CMC guys in your last few outings." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not trying to like specifically fight CMC guys," and we were kind of laughing. And I was saying it more speaks to the rate of activity of the team and how prevalent they are across Canada.
Oh yeah, I guess he has fought a few guys, hasn't he? That's right. That should be a good fight. I'm excited for those guys. Those guys are gonna throw a good show on for sure. They're both coming out like, strong guys, very technical, very smart. So it's going to be a good fight to watch, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Like one of many very intriguing fights on the card that's getting my attention there. But something else that kind of got my attention too, I saw you went go-kart racing a bit before your first Neal Anderson fight. Are you going to rip a little bit of go-karting before the rematch to keep the continuity, or?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the weather holds up, I guess.
Yeah, I went go-karting kind of recently in like Niagara Falls area there for like a bachelor weekend sort of thing, and I'm like, damn, this is pretty underrated. I haven't done this in a while. Maybe I should do it.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we try to do as much activities outside as we can, so especially with the kids. Kids enjoy that kind of stuff, so.
And I feel like just being in that River Cree kind of area, just like adjacent to like a lot of like big Edmonton stuff, I imagine there's a lot of like fun kind of touristy sort of things you can partake in.
Yeah, there is. There's quite a bit, actually. We don't have too much in Lethbridge here, so whenever we get a chance to do some of the stuff that we don't have here, we do it.
Yeah, for sure. Got to take advantage of some of the local stuff when you're kind of just, getting out there and stuff like that. But I'm kind of wondering, like, just like with Neal Anderson here, like, just, I mean, you were talking about how it's going to be like a different fight, like relative to like how you're preparing for it and how you're kind of coming into it. And not that there's been like a great deal of him getting out there subsequent to your guys' first fight, but just like, what are your thoughts on like maybe what he's kind of been able to show? Like, he had that Lucas Neufeld fight and stuff like that. Like, do you think he's been able to like shore up certain aspects of his game maybe, or like what were your thoughts on that, I suppose?
Oh, of course, we're fighters. If you're not getting better, then you're not doing it right? So I'm only expecting him to get better, just like I'm getting better. So we're both kind of reaching new levels and new heights here. So it's gonna be it'll be a nice big barn fight, right? Like it's gonna be he's working on his skills that he's weak on. I'm working on my skills I'm weak on. So it's gonna be one of those things where we're both gonna come and clash and see what we've all worked on, right? So we'll see how it goes. I don't have much thought about it. It was good. It was a good fight, and I think Lucas didn't really show up in that fight, so it's hard to tell. You know what I mean?
Going to be a very interesting rematch in a lot of regards, but I mean, entertaining. You get the ideal outcome, championship defense under your belt there, UFC Fight Pass broadcasted fight. Like, what would represent like a broader kind of goal? Like, is there a certain like defined path you have with all of this here? Is it kind of just like a martial artist ethos, want to get out there and kind of test yourself, take it day by day, or do you have like a broader kind of like, I'd like to see myself here in 5 years kind of plan?
Well, I just want to fight right now. I don't have any major goals in my head, but continue fighting, continue winning. That's one of the things I want to keep doing. And then learn. Every time I have a fight, try and learn from each fight and kind of add to my game. Because you learn more in a fight than you do in the actual training camp, you know what I mean? And I've noticed that in the past couple of fights, where if you rewatch your fights, then even in the middle of the fight, you learn something. And you kind of use that for your next fight. And you remember it. So we'll see what I've picked up from my last couple of fights here and see if I can use what I've learned from my mistakes.
Yeah, and it's a great culture there. I mean, learning from a guy like Lee Meehan, where there's that, combination of him having been like a pioneer of the scene like very early on, but also having that very, I guess, active mindset, wanting to figure out like the latest things guys are doing just on every level of the game. So I imagine that would be a great guy to be under the proverbial learning tree of.
Oh, he's an amazing coach. He knows so much. It's crazy. He he specifically watches fights and knows what to do, knows what to look for, and kind of teaches you and tells you this is what you got to do. And when me and him, when we click, we were unstoppable. It's crazy. And every time I listen to my corner, I'm always winning. When I don't listen to my corner is when I start losing. So I got to make sure that I'm actually paying attention to what he's saying to me in the middle of the fight. That's one of the big things, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that's super important to have that kind of relationship and that kind of trust and everything like that. And just, I mean, yeah, the fact that there's such a strong like familial kind of vibe there. I mean, I imagine that would really lend itself to that. So is that something you've kind of noticed from like past competition? Because you were kind of saying there, like the times you've kind of faltered and ended up losing was when you weren't listening to your corner. Like, were there specific fights where you were noticing that was happening?
Yeah, there was a couple fights where he was telling me to do some certain things, and my mind just wasn't clicking, and I wasn't clicking with him, and then it kind of made me deteriorate away from winning that fight. So I've learned to back in my head, I keep telling myself, make sure to listen to my corner, right? So I've been kind of working on that actually quite a bit, and making sure I'm paying attention to what he's saying, because what he's saying, he sees more than what I can see. I'm in the middle of the fight, my adrenaline's pumping, so I don't see what he's seeing, and he kind of just, if I listen to him, I know exactly what to do. So that's the kind of goal I'm working on right now. That's actually one of my biggest things right now is listen to your corner in the middle of a fight. A lot of people don't, and that's one of the big things you got to learn is listening to your corner, because they see a lot that you don't, and it's very important.
Yeah, and probably too the fact that he's still actively competing and stuff like that. Like he probably knows how to like, yeah, just conveying the message and those factors you were mentioning, like the adrenaline and stuff like that. Like he probably knows how to like, I guess, properly get across that message, just knowing like what that sort of like hectic emotional space can be like. So yeah, that's probably a benefit too, I'd imagine.
Oh, exactly. It's a huge benefit. I'm glad he's still competing. He inspires us all. It's crazy.
Yeah, some of the loudest body shots I think I've ever heard was him fighting Christian Larson. I was just like, good lord, this man's going to have no ribs by the end of this.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was getting wild. Another great card in Enoch there, and this upcoming one definitely going to be adding to that tradition there. But great getting to talk to you, Majed. Always fun getting to chop it up a little bit. But I do want to be mindful of your time and everything. So to that point, is there anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up?
No, just tell Neal to bring this game, and let's have some fun.
I think a lot of fun will be had in this big rematch, and that goes down on May the 27th. If you're not in the Enoch, Alberta area for Unified MMA 45, you can peep that rematch for the featherweight championship on UFC Fight Pass. And yeah, to reiterate, thanks for coming on the show, man. Always fun getting to talk, and just best of luck with the remaining part of the preparation here, and looking forward to checking out the fight too.
Thanks a lot for the call.